Isn't it amazing that we've come this far in the journey of Get Confidence? With the course, we've been going through module after module, which has been shifting you into authentic confidence, making healthy choices, identifying your weak spot and dealing with that internal accuser. And we've moved on to finding your core passion. And it's brilliant to see how this kind of material isn't just theoretical, but it really works. I know from having used this for the last 16 years globally, whether it's a township in South Africa through to the chief executive's boardroom of a multinational bank, people are the same the world over, as I said at the beginning. And what's fabulous is to know that with all the people I've worked with over the years, the change does happen because it's coming from within you as you're making choices to embed the habits that are reinforcing this wonderful Get Confidence, authentic confidence. So I want to look today at something which I know is really important to everybody, which is, Libby, I know I'm fine with me, I like me, I love me, I know my core passion, I'm really confident about my dreams and my visions. The only problem is the other people that get in the way. Now, I really understand that because I often come across people who I can only define them as lemon suckers. They've obviously been sucking on a lemon before they come into a meeting, and they're sitting in the room just waiting with their lips pursed to say something acidic. And if they hold that acid in their mouths long enough, they will eventually burn their tongues. But the problem is, it's the damage they cause to the people around us. So I want to have a look at how to really embrace and engage with people in a way that creates a win-win scenario. And I'm going to use a model from your workbook, and it's called transactional analysis. And you'll see from the model that you've got a stack of blocks where you've got the child at the bottom, the adult in the middle, and the parental voice on top. Do you remember when we talked about the scenario about the child videoing everything from the moment we're born? We video it all, and we video everything that's going on. So all of us as adults, we carry all those childhood videos and memories all the way through. At the same time, we're adults, but in our heads, we can carry a parental voice, and that can be, an adult figure, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a carer. It doesn't matter who it is, but there's an adult figure, a parental figure, which can have a critical voice, or it can be a very positive voice in our heads. And so what can happen is that I might go into an office, and supposing there was somebody there who I was working with, so hypothetically there's a secretary there, and I might have come from my boss's office who said to me, Libby, I need this report ready in 20 seconds. So I go into the office and say to the secretary, right, I need this report. And my tone of voice can start triggering the replay of something that happened in the past which was negative, and it can affect how they feel. Now if you move to the next model, you'll see a model with two people, and it's exactly that kind of scenario. You've got one person saying to the other, have you got that report? Is it ready? And the tone of voice can trigger in that person a feeling of, and they haven't dealt with their internal accuser, so they're wide open to this, and that internal accuser triggers a feeling, the word in their head says, she thinks you're stupid. They've suddenly started to move into feeling, I feel like I'm 4 and I'm being told off. Now they're not thinking that, they're just thinking, well, that's not a really nice way to speak to me at all. But their feeling is one of, oh, I feel like I'm 4 and whatever it is. And that can just change the whole dynamic, because what happens is if somebody moves to being the child, what then does it force the other person to become? Absolutely. They are forced into becoming the parent. And suddenly you might find yourself becoming the parent to a child. Well, I did tell you to have that ready, or it should be here at the right time. And it's creating a really unhealthy dynamic. Another example could simply be, there's a bunch of friends going out for a meal. They've arranged to meet at 7:30 for dinner, and one of them comes in really late, by which point the food's already been ordered. So there's a friend's arriving in late to come for a meal that's been pre-agreed with everybody else, and they sit down at the table, And the friend that's already sat down might say to them, oh, great to see you're here. Great to see you're finally here. And just that tone of voice and the words can be enough to trigger the internal accuser in that other person. And before you know it, they've fallen into being, well, I'm really angry about that. I just feel, and their head talk is being fueled by smog, by all the heaviness. Well, I should have got here earlier, and it makes for a really unhealthy dynamic. But there's good news, and in fact there's fantastic news for those who are doing the Get Confidence course, because you've dealt with your internal accuser. You know what you love about who you be. You also know what your core passion is, which is to make people feel happy or to make them feel safe, whatever your core passion is. And so let's rerun that scenario again in a way that's healthy and helps you manage other people in a way that creates a win-win scenario. So if we take the first example of the office, it could simply be walking in and saying, when you recognise that what you've said has caused the other person to start moving into, anger or impatience, it's simply to recognise that and say, hang on a second, it's like, I'm sorry about that. I realise that I've come in with a lot of stress and I didn't mean to communicate that way to you. Now, could you tell me what do you think is the best way of getting this report done? Because let's work together in this. And so you can create a collaborative approach. Let's look at the friends in the restaurant. How can we create a win-win scenario from that? Because the person who knows themselves and how they influence is the person who can take control and keep power in a healthy way within this kind of scenario. So here we have it, everybody's sitting down, the meal's been ordered, the friend comes in really late, sits down, and the person sitting down says, oh, I see you've managed to arrive in time. And as they're saying that, they immediately can see in the other person's facial language a change of expression. And they can see the starting of the body language moving. And again, we're going to come to body language in another module. But they can see the body language, and at that point, you can recognize and say, I need to change the dynamic because this person is now becoming a child. I need to not become the parent. I need to bring this back to adult. How to do it? Really easy. The same thing, use that lovely intervention of, hang on a second, I probably sounded like I was being a bit critical about you being late. What I wanted to know was, and wanted to say to you was, it's fantastic you've managed to arrive here in time the way you have, because we're just in time for having the meal, and so you just arrived at the perfect time for ordering and joining in with the rest of us. Now tell me about your day, what were you doing today? So you can rescue it by bringing in just a normal conversation, keeping your tone even, and then not entering and engaging into, I'm going to become the parent with this child and tell them this and have this argy-bargy, but you pull it back and you pull them back up into being the adult. And it's as simple as that. Practice is the best way to embed this habit. And the most important thing about the control around this kind of keeping it adult to adult is that when somebody falls into being either the child or being the parent, they run what we call control dramas. They can become very aggressive. Well, why didn't you tell me? It's not my fault I was late. And it's being fueled and fed by their internal accuser. They can also become aloof. Well, I'll just go off to another room and I just won't talk to anybody tonight. So there's different ways that people can react to situations when they fall into being either the child or the parent. But if people are kept as the adult, which is a healthy place to be, then it stops all these kind of dynamics going on. And it enables natural and normal conversation to take place. There's a lot more to this than we can put into this one module, but what I wanted to give you was the essential understanding of the dynamic that goes on, so that you can be mindful of using your authentic confidence and to be free not to pull down into child or push yourself into being the parent, but you take control, you manage your response, and that will automatically have a knock-on effect for the rest of the people around you. I'd like to give you an example of that because sometimes listening to this kind of thing, it can sound a bit abstract. So here's a very concrete example. There was working with a multinational bank, and a team leader was sent on training with Get Confidence, and they were somebody who didn't work well with their team, and there were all sorts of personalities that were paying off each other within the department. And part of it, in fact mainly it stemmed because this particular leader was lacking in confidence and also was not very good at communicating. And so when our confidence is rock solid and authentic, we're very free in how we talk, we're able to communicate well. If our confidence is rocky, it can really knock that back and make it difficult for us to express ourselves in a way that's good. But what happened was this person came on the training and spent time looking at their core passion, looking at dealing with their internal accuser, looking at what words describe the wonderful them that they were. And then they went back into their office, and part of them coming on the training was for me to meet up with their manager to see how it was impacting on the department. And they'd completely forgotten they'd sent the person on training, because this was several months later. This wasn't like the next day or the next week. It was left for at least 6 months so we could see what was being embedded, what habits had been developed and had become a natural part of their authentic, confident self. And you know what was amazing? When we went in and we met with them, it turned out that this whole department had completely had a culture change, because the leader in the department had come back staying as the adult, not becoming the wee helpless or angry child, or becoming the parent with other members of staff, because they'd become relaxed about the fact that they could influence just out of the natural talents of who they be. The whole department had pulled together, and the confidence within the department, the confidence with the leadership, the impact on the rest of the organisation was noticeable, because it was being felt, because people buy you, not your product. People are influenced by who you be. And it had a fantastic impact on the internal culture of that organisation. So it works. You focus on yourself, keep yourself as an adult, work through the worksheet and have a look at the questions around you. And as always, put the best of it that's been most helpful in the review section at the end. And look forward to seeing you for our final session on body language.